Good morning. Happy Sunday morning live, everybody. So, yeah, there was a video on Business Insider that showed a YouTube video that it actually fit the beginning of Earth, where it fit in between, if you were to travel from LA to New York, it would show the different checkpoints of when Earth was created to then the molecules to then when the different organisms were created to go from reptiles to then mammals to then humans and all of that. So when you think about the birth of Earth and then all of the animals, I think of it as the mother's womb. I think of it as the gestation period during pregnancy. And that's why they call it Mother Earth, because it's like a womb. It's an environment that has to sustain life. Okay. And so you can kind of fit in the birth of Earth to then all of the animals to even through 9 months of gestation, because the environment has to be ready to be able to house life. And so even though Mother Earth has a bunch of life, whether it's plants and animals, reptiles, and all that stuff, a mother's womb has to be able to sustain life. And it comes from chaos, because let's listen. So I'll go through the notes I got from that video, because the video, you can watch it on my my timeline. But 4.54 billion years ago, Earth was formed. Okay, so if you go from LA to New York, that's 2,450 miles. So they wanted to show an actual pictorial, and where if you were to actually, how do they say it? Hold on a second. I'm gonna find this. I should have found this, or I should have just had this available, because there's a way to explain this where people get it. And it's kind of hard to explain because you're putting together different measures of time, whether it's a distance and different even metrics. So metrics and measures of time, and then miles. You're putting them all together so people can understand. So different analogies. Okay, give me 1 second. Oh my God, it's taking forever. All right. Oh wow, okay. Okay. I know. I should have had this set up earlier, but that's okay. Here we go. Okay. So if the history of Earth was on a timeline from LA to New York, we would be only 8 inches away from the destination to New York, type of thing. Okay. So, all right. So LA to New York, 2,450 miles. And then you're seeing the different timelines, the different checkpoints on that timeline from LA to New York. And so you can kind of see from that point of view. So 4.5 billion years ago, Moon forms after Earth and is hit by a planet-sized body. Okay, so there's that chaos there. So that's kind of like the sperm hitting the egg. Okay. And then 3.95 billion years ago, the world's oldest rock formation. So there's the start of the cells formulating. This is where you get that little tiny egg that turns into, and the sperm turning into that little baby that's like a cell. It's like really small. And then 3.95 billion years ago, the world's oldest rock formation. 3.8 billion years ago, replicating molecules. Then the baby starts developing, it's turning into a form. Okay, so if the Earth is a chicken, all the animals and the plants are like the eggs. because we're flourishing within a womb of Mother Earth, right? So then 240 million years ago, dinosaurs. 200 million years ago, Pangea breaks apart. Those are all the different continents, the 7 different continents breaking apart. 66 million years ago, the KPG, or the Cretaceous Paleogene mass extinction event, where 3/4 of the planet became extinct. Okay, so that's plants and animals. So Earth went through its fluctuations. And then I jumped all the way to 3 miles. Okay, 3 miles away from destination is 6.0 million years ago. So we're going from 2,450 miles, okay, which is basically 4.54 billion years ago, to now 6 million years ago. Hominids diverge from chimps. So this is where evolution starts. And then 1.8 million years ago, early humans craft cutting tools from stone. And then 200,000 years ago, modern humans evolve. 10,000 years ago, agricultural revolution begins. And then 5,500 years ago, which is like around the Bible time, this is where recorded history, beginning of recorded of human history. And that's where the Bible, the Old Testament, the New Testament, all that stuff. Okay, so we're really not, when you think about how old the Earth is, we're really not that old. We're actually really, really new. And which means that we're going to be, we're going through some major growth process. Okay, so we're not that old. We're really actually new, which means that we are probably just in time to kind of figure this stuff out, especially for humans. And so, and then I just did that connection that the Earth is like the womb of Mother Earth. And that's why they call it Mother Earth, Father Sky, and that type of thing. Because, yeah, it's really the chicken came before. The environment has to be able to sustain life. And even though there's fluctuations, that's why some people can't conceive, because their environment is too polluted. Okay, so even though, yes, they're on a death trajectory, because that's what created Earth to begin with, was the collision of planet-sized body hitting Earth, which created the moon. Okay, so Earth was formed from some kind of, and they say like the Big Bang, but I mean, but some kind of chaos happened to where Earth was formed, and then the moon then started. Then the moon became into being, and then you have the rock formations, and then you have replicating molecules, and that is the beginning of life. When a woman becomes pregnant, that's the beginning of life, because it's been fertilized by a sperm. Okay, so yeah, so if we can live on this Earth, all of us, then it means the environment is stable enough to be able to live. So you're seeing all these activists out there, they're putting up signs, oh my God, climate change, we got to do something. And you're seeing them putting these little girls out there for the public, and people are protesting vaccinations and all these different activist things, but yet Earth is still sustaining life. Right now, the children of Earth, the eggs, the little eggs, okay, some eggs are kind of glitching and full of cancer. Other eggs are flourishing and they're doing well and they're living symbiotically with the environment. So you got to think about how many eggs Mother Earth has, how many eggs a woman has, and why not all eggs conceive. So when you think about, fertility and them doing, human farming, when they do in the IVF, and they're pumping the mothers full of different hormones, they're trying to artificially create eggs because her environment was where, because I mean, when you think about it, on two ends of the spectrum, if you're sterile or if you can't create children at all for whatever reason, there's a lot of different factors. And it could be because you're just, you're so young, the body doesn't see it as a need to drop seeds, or you're so polluted that the body says this is not an environment for you to have children because you have so many issues going on. So it could be one of the two contexts. So that's why we have IVF, because people are still having cancer, disease, and chronic illness and issues and aging, but they're not able to conceive because their environment is not sustainable to carry a baby. So then they have to go to IVF means, okay? So that's kind of right now what's going on, is that we have so many eggs in so we have over 3 or 7 billion eggs on this planet. That's 7 billion humans, that some are not going to be able to flourish and they are glitching. Okay, so there's many ways you can look at what goes on in our society today. And we have gone through several resets. I mean, you hear about all the human history of all the different, extinctions and civilizations being wiped out, and the fall of this society, fall of that civilization, the fall of this empire, the fall of that empire. And then you see humans then scatter after a huge event, and then they go and redo it again and recover. And then, yeah, you have now a new environment. And so we're kind of in that process right now. Okay. And so now we're finally seeing that viruses are always going to be around us. They did help us evolve and get us from being a hominin or hominid, a chimp, all the way to now a current human with so much diverse characteristics. And then you're seeing modern medicine and modern humans are able to now prolong life to where even cancer, disease, and chronic illness is actually a life enhancer. Not so much enhancer, but it actually prolongs life, but you're going to be glitching longer. Okay? Because if we left everything up to Mother Nature, okay, and we lived like the bears, we would have a life expectancy of 30 years old, because anyone that was weak or didn't, or, was at that point in time where the body would then decay from the lack of right nutrients put together, just like a bear. If you gave the bears jelly juice, they would live forever if you can get a bear to take jelly juice. Okay? So the only bears that would live like indefinitely would be bears taken care of by humans who knew how to capture the elements to then prolong their life. So if you put a bear or put a human that has absolutely no idea except to live by their baser instincts, they would have a lifespan of 30 years old, because they wouldn't know how to find ways to prolong their life. And of course, with any kind of advanced technology, you get then elements that kick up that have to be then figured out and negotiated, so you can have countering forces. Okay, so you don't poison a human because of too many elements conglomerating in one area. Okay, so humans have figured out how to prolong life, though we learned from the bubonic plague that viruses are ever so prevalent. You'll never get rid of viruses, they'll always be there. So if you always have viruses, then you got to figure out how can you manipulate these viruses and manipulate the human body to be able to live despite the fact that the body is glitching, instead of having death be outright. And you're seeing so many different lifespan figures of back in the 50s and the 60s. But no matter what specific number you find, like I saw in one website, which is a blog website, but they said 52 years old was the average lifespan in the 1950s and 1960s. And then people were then steadily increasing the lifespan, as well as increasing the their weight. Okay. But then you see like NCBI, like, the PubMed type of stuff, where they're like, okay, the average lifespan was like 60 or 70. And so no matter what, even when you look at then the lifespan of today, we are living longer. But then you're looking at the data of how many people died of cancer back in the 1950s and 1960s. And as you get older, people who were 75 years old were dying of cancer. Okay? That was the main thing that people died from, was cancer. So viruses will always be in the world of humans. How we deal with the cancer is going to be now the difference. And so anyways, and cancer will then come in many different forms. It'll come into disease. Okay? Cancer is a virus. Even a cold, well, isn't really cancer, but it has characteristics of it, because cancer is a virus. Okay? A cold is a virus. Now, it's not like cancer. Well, cancer tells you that the virus has taken over, and if it's not stopped anytime soon, it's going to turn into something deadly. Okay? But cancer is letting you know that you are now at your last hurrah. You are on your reserves. but you've been on reserves. There were many indicators long before you actually got diagnosed with cancer. You know, getting sick, getting a cold, getting some kind of benign diagnosis, removing organs and limbs and going through surgeries and aging. That's all a sign of viruses that are taking control of the body. However, we have people then now, we have biotech that's able to find ways to prolong people's lives and live despite having all these different weaknesses. And then you're seeing this is why we have so many things in our society go wrong, because we have people glitching, from kids that are malfunctioning to then adults who never fix their issues and have very aggressive issues that are, even though they're backbone of our society, they're living despite that, but they're making bad choices. And then you have the elderly who are degrading and making bad choices, as well as good choices too. Okay. And so it depends on how strong your brain is. And then if you do have weaknesses in the body, which we're seeing, you know, I mean, look at Bill Gates. All of his strength is in his brain, but you couldn't see him throwing steel or driving a truck or being, you know, some bodybuilder. No, but all of his strength, because he doesn't have to build up all of his muscle strength and his body strength. We're able to have society where you can actually utilize your brain more than your body, and then have all these new advanced technology and, you know, and human ingenuity and all that stuff. And then we have people that are building up houses and construction and all that, and they don't only have to have major brain power, though they do, but they don't use it in a way that is inventive for then society to progress. No, mostly where their worth is through how strong they are, that they can work for many hours a day and drive a truck or throw steel or build a house. Okay, so it's like we're utilizing our strengths and our weaknesses to then contribute as a whole to our society. But then you're seeing the glitching happen, and you're seeing then people are reproducing more and more on bodies that are malfunction, and then you're seeing the life expectancy diminish, and then you're seeing then genetics and generations of families are dying off because every single time they procreate on a body that's highly traumatized, the kids are sterile and then they do pass away. Okay, and so yeah, you can only manipulate the human body to such an extent, because reproduction really is only when the body goes through a major aggressive event, just like when you have the comets, when they're seeing change in the atmosphere, and the comets came down, and that was probably, you know, way before humans. But when you think about how a change in the environment could actually trigger reproduction, because the body senses there's a change in the environment, potentially could be starting extinction on the body, and then it becomes fertile. And so then that is infectious. It happens then throughout, if there's men and women inside of a community, then it's catching, okay? Because the environment doesn't change, but people's bodies relative to what's going on, what they bring to the table, does change. And so that's why you're seeing so many different levels of infection in people, so many different levels of strength and weaknesses, because there's so many people who are in different levels of their strength and their development and their weaknesses. And so, and with 7 billion people, that's a lot of different diverse areas of where they are on the spectrum of life and their genetic line. Okay, so yeah, you can have like 5 kids, and one kid the genetic line will stop with them. Another kid, they will keep reproducing because they have the strong genetics. So you have a kid with weak genetics that is not going to procreate, so that genetic line stops with them. Another kid is going to be so strong that they will be planting seeds all over the place, repopulating the earth all over the place. Okay, so people only have one child, then they have really no chance. All their eggs are in that basket, so to speak, to keep that genetic line forward. All right, but every single time you procreate on a genetic line that has issues, then that's when we see major glitches. So when you have 5 kids and one kid does procreate on major issues, you're going to see some crazy issues down that genetic line. And one kid has really great genetics and very well balanced because they got all the good genes. They'll procreate, and that genetic line will be very, very strong. Okay, so it just all depends on what you're bringing to the table. So anyways, so that was kind of interesting, seeing how young we are really in the scheme of things. And now we're seeing a major tipping point, and humans are going to be, there's going to be, we're dealing with fluctuations. Earth's been around since first for like 4.54 billion years. And there's been fluctuations in the climate ever since 4.54 billion years ago. You think that the last, 10,000 years, 5,500 years, that we haven't had some kind of fluctuation in the environment? It's not what we're doing. It's not all the dust that we're kicking up. Pollution and all this stuff has been happening ever since civilization. There was pollution over in the Roman Empire days. Pollution is only based upon how weak a person is that can't handle their environment. They can't adapt. Pollution is all like a perception of the person. And we have people who are very weak trying to impose or projecting their weaknesses and say, oh, I can't have, milk and eggs and beef and pork, and we can't have cars, and we can't have this because we're killing the environment and you're hurting me. And so that's how they're imposing and projecting their weaknesses, and then they politicize it. And then you have a bunch of people who are so weak because we keep reproducing on traumatized bodies that then band together and then call themselves vegans and vegetarians, and then want to impose and project their weaknesses onto the population. And then they go into stores like Walmart and stop people from buying food to feed their family. I mean, that's where we're at. We have so many weak people in our society trying to impose and project their weaknesses onto everybody else. Okay? So when you think about it, cancer is a gift to let you know that you are glitching, that you need to now reconfigure the elements to fix those weaknesses. And there's this lady on like HGTV. She was diagnosed with breast cancer like back in 2002, went through chemotherapy, went through all that stuff, and then she passed away because the cancer came back. Okay, what was her name? I'm trying to think her name. HGTV person that passed away. I didn't share that. HGTV person pass away. Oh, dies. Oh yeah, Suzanne Wang. She had a battle with breast cancer. She dies at age 56. See, that's young. That is young when you think about how old a human could actually, and that's because she didn't bring in the right nutrients, the right elements, and she dealt with her cancer the wrong way. Okay, every single time you guys deal with your cancer diseases utilizing the system's way of doing it, you're buying yourself potential, you're buying yourself time, but not really. It depends on what you bring to the table. So I'm looking to see. Oh, it's okay. I'm not gonna go through that. But okay. But anyway, so when you think about it, so when you get diagnosed with cancer and you beat cancer, it's only a matter of time. You could have 5 years, you could have 10 years of okay, you bought yourself time. But now, if you keep with the same programming, even though you changed now from a processed food diet to a vegan and vegetarian, you're still starving yourself because you haven't fixed a weakness that caused you to have breast cancer to begin with. Because breast cancer, all it is a type of virus that took over the body that had weaknesses in the breast. That's what cancer is that you have weaknesses that you've never strengthened. And then the virus found that weakness and exploited it. And this is why you see generational breast cancer, cervical cancer, heart disease, brain disease, lung disease, all that stuff in families because no one ever corrected the problem. And then it gets passed down to the daughters, it gets passed down to the sons, and that is what's in your future. So if you're already experiencing indicators, red flags, such as obesity, colds and flus and other types of diagnoses, there's only a matter of time before then that weakness starts getting exploited because you're not bringing in the right nutrients and the right elements. And so when you're changing from a processed food diet, eating high meats, to saying, okay, I'm going to be a vegan and vegetarian. Now, you change the programming so you're skinnier, but then being skinnier also tells you that you are starving yourself, putting more pressure on your organs that now is stealing minerals from different parts of your body, and then you start seeing the aging process happen more rapidly. So at least getting cancer and disease and chronic illness lets you know that there's something wrong. You need to bring in the right nutrients, deal with the generational pain, because nobody's dealing with their pain from the past. You deal with the pain, and then you will strengthen that weakness. That's not going to be something in your future. Because right now people are seeing with the J juice is that they have breast cancer in their genetic line. They've dealt with breast cancer. They had chemotherapy from breast cancer, and they're feeling pain from the healing process. And they know on the J juice, those nutrients are strengthening that weakness in their breast. Okay? But if you are adverse to pain and you're taking cannabis, you're taking drugs, you're taking out organs, you're taking out, cancerous, which is okay, I guess. But when you are trying to anesthetize yourself and pretend that it's not there, or thinking that you're taking on these drugs and cannabis, that it's healing you. And somebody was saying that, oh yeah, cannabis, builds brain cells. And I'm looking at Rick Simpson, and he looks like he is decaying faster because he's been taking all this cannabis for so many years for all of his issues. It's sucking the life out of him. So yeah, some of you who are obese, that are young, and you're taking cannabis, yeah, you're not going to see yourself die right away, but you don't know that because you don't know how many minerals that you have already depleted ever since you've had all these kids, ever since you're dealing with all these cancer, disease, and chronic illness, and in your family and in your genetic line and in your history. Then you're having kids on top of that. So those kids are taking your resources. So you're now mineral and nutritionally depleted, malnourished. And then you're trying to eat all this healthy food, and it's doing nothing for you because the body can't break it down to get access to those nutrients. And then this is where you see then the indicators of the body going off the cliff. It is decaying, degrading. You're losing your eyesight. I'm seeing people losing their eyesight, losing their hair. They're seeing their hormones go out of whack. They're taking stuff out. They're doing bariatric surgery. I mean, I'm telling you, name it. People are trying to do everything they can to try to prolong your life. But if you have mineral reserves that are being depleted, and you already have major vital organ damage, and let's say you do get a stroke, you're not going to have enough minerals in your reserves to repair the damage to survive that stroke. So that's why people die of strokes and they die of heart attacks, because there are already weaknesses sustained in the heart as well as in the brain. And then the body is going to do what it needs to do to try to survive, go through a biochemical triage, stealing from Peter to pay Paul, and there isn't enough minerals in the coffers. And so a person dies. And so that's why you see people that's perfectly what they look like is normal or healthy die, because they have mineral depletion. And the indicators, which are all the symptoms, as well as the family medical history. You look at your parents. When you see your parents dealing with cancer, disease, and chronic illness, that's in your future. You look at some kids look exactly like their mom. It's like, your spitting image. It's like a clone. Every single person that reproduces on a traumatized body, it's like a clone. The body's making copies of itself. Okay? And then they say that, that's right, there was this meme about a hamster. And then they said they're trying to do a propaganda against genetically modified. Genetically modified, all it is just elements. It's not poisonous. Genetically modified is not poisonous. It's just elements. Your body can negotiate if it's well balanced, but if it's not, no matter what, you can't handle the food supply. But they're saying that the third generation of breeding doesn't survive. When you keep reproducing on, and the third generation, I guess, won't be able to carry the genetic line. So we're looking at 300 years of humans that eventually will not be able to breed anymore. 300 years. So that 3 generations is like 300 years compared, with humanity. And so we're like at 20, 19, 18, 1700. So we're looking at people who are having issues with breeding. And that's why we have IVF. So you look at a hamster that doesn't get the right elements, and they're eating all different types of foods and whatever, they're becoming sterile at the 3rd generation. And so that's why you see animals that, when you breed animals on a very, very exponential basis, you're seeing issues with the eyes, and then you see in litters where a lot of the animals who don't get the good genetics and the nutrients. You're seeing them are like the runts of the litter. They are the ones that have the most issues. And so that's Mother Nature saying, okay, all the great genetics came to, to these 1 or 2 kittens instead of like the other 7 kittens. So yeah, when you keep reproducing on bodies that are highly traumatized and never had the issues resolved, you're going to see weaknesses in every single genetic line. And that's why you're seeing kids with obesity. That's why you're seeing kids that are contracting their early childhood cancers. That's why you're seeing, the lifespan of children actually becoming shorter and shorter when you think about it, because modern medicine is not going to be able to handle. They won't be able to handle the vaccines. They won't be able to handle even just the procedures because our bodies are that weak. Okay? And so we have people that look completely normal in our society being a predator on children. You're like, oh my God, this guy is victimizing children. He looks like a normal dude, because glitches are happening right up here. And the body is trying to now procreate with things that are inappropriate for his age group. But yeah, his muscles, he has great muscles and he has a head of hair in all of his teeth, but their proclivities are messed up because they have a major imbalance. And now their body is signaling them to go and procreate as much as possible, because that body is about to go into a death trajectory. So that's why you're seeing all the predator and preys. Okay, so modern medicine is great, but eventually the human body, when it keeps procreating and procreating and procreating and procreating, modern medicine is not going to help it. And we're reaching to that point right now where modern medicine is only going to make things worse on people with very weak bodies, because the viruses are only getting stronger. Okay, and people are only getting weaker. And when viruses are getting stronger, people are weaker, and we're reproducing more. Now every single person that gets exposed to a virus is more communicable, strengthening that strain, and then pass it along to somebody else who's very weak. Because it's like taking a piece of you. Every single time that you take on a virus and you pass it to somebody else, it took a piece of your life force, and then it took something from you. And then you gave to somebody else who's either going to benefit from it. Like me, let's say I'm around somebody who is sick. Well, I just took their life force because they coughed all over me or whatever. Well, I just took part of their life force, and I actually benefit from it. But if I had a weak body, that data, that virus data that you gave me that was strengthened, would destroy me if I had a weak body. But since I have a strong body, I will gain benefit from every single person that's sick around me. So you can either take people's data and derive benefit, or you'll derive a risk, and it would then potentially destroy you. Okay, so it all has to do with how well balanced your environment is. And right now we have people with very, very messed up environments glitching on Mother Earth. Mother Earth is still going to sustain life. But then you have the different eggs that are full of cancers, which are the different people out there full of cancers. Okay, and then they reproduce more cancers. Okay, and that's just how cancer grows. I'm not trying to say people who are sick and who are, are cancers, but in a way, that's the way nature works. When you're trying to take chemotherapy and cannabis and drugs and everything, you have a cancer that's growing within you, and it's going to take over and destroy. And so what do you naturally want to do? You naturally want to fight it and try to have good cells overtake. But if you're not bringing the right elements, it's not going to happen. You're eventually going to die. Okay? So that's just like on Earth. When there's cancers on Earth, that life form will die. So anyways, someone sent me an email today that I want to read, so you guys know how I approach this, because I don't do any personal consultations. I really don't. And I don't want to, because when you get involved with somebody's sickness, it becomes highly traumatized. And then they suck the life out of you. And for good reason, because your life is diminishing. Okay, so they're going to try to derive any kind of hormonal benefit they can. But I want you to know how I deal with and how I help you guys without being this major thing that you guys are leaning on. Okay, so she goes, please, I was recently diagnosed with acute Lyme disease and getting no support from the medical community. And then I just had a pap smear about 1 month ago, and they found a suspicious HPV and want to do biopsies down there. Scared, feeling alone, and shut out from healing. Need to detox, get healthy, stay energized and positive. Have candida, I guess, as well as tons of bacteria and parasites. And supposedly Spiro sheets. And I don't know much of what to do, but I recently heard about fermenting cabbage and green juice, and I use pink Himalayan salt, sea salt. Pink Himalayan is not sea salt, it's actually mountain salt. Don't ever use sea salt on the J juice. I would like to learn about this. I can do this for health in the rest of my life. I am 60 now, and I was blind for 5 years due to awful catch-22 situation. I got my sight back in mid-February with triple cataract surgeries, and I would thought my life was going to improve, and then the Lyme disease, and then did not want to get the biopsy yet because I'm afraid and haven't learned all I need to or been able to pay for more supplements for that, and I'm wondering how to blast possible cancer. So here's what I said. Here's the thing, you should get my book and read it, and ignore the anti-vax portion of it, as I will be revising the book, and it won't be released until sometime next year. My current book on the market has the Jilly Juice protocol, and it doesn't just deal with the Lyme disease or any of the symptoms you are exhibiting, but you will be dealing with stuff in the past as well as the present, as well as potential future triggers. And you must watch my YouTube videos from my links of my channel. That's on my website. And I do a talk to task. I don't write all this out. If I did, my fingers would just be like, oh my God. I would hate to do emails, writing everything out all the time. The amount of people I have contacting me, I would hate to keep writing all the time. So the whole Jilly Juice protocol does not have you bring in other detoxes or supplements or shakes or powders. It will only integrate with people if you are under a doctor's care or chose not to do any medication such as prescription drugs. But if you are on prescription drugs, then please do that plus the J Juice. Once you buy the book, I know that you have now the instructions. You can send us a receipt, and then if you want to get some kind of ghost account for Facebook or take your current Facebook and then be open to being part of a secret public Facebook group where you don't have to share anything, but at least you can observe. And then you can ask certain questions in there, or you can ask questions through email that isn't asking how long it's going to take for you to heal. But you will tell us or share if you want to know how the protocol is doing for you. I can't tell you how long your Lyme disease is going to be reversed, or cancer, or HPV, or anything else, as everybody is different. And yes, you're going to be dealing with stuff around your eyes as well as everything else that had sustained some kind of symptoms. So all I can tell you is get the book, send us a receipt, and then we will invite you to the secret public Facebook group. And that is where I give public support. Anyone that doesn't mind putting it out there, because yes, I do have trolls in my group, and everybody is watching, but I am as transparent as all get out, because I have to be. Our model is not to do personal consultations. And this protocol is something that you're going to have to apply on your own and understand from the inside out before you embark on this journey. Pain is always going to be something you're going to have to deal with and have to manage. And that's where you have to watch my videos on YouTube. So please go to my website and get the book and then read it and then understand it. And if you have questions regarding the diet or how to make the juice, feel free to ask in the group once you get into our secret public Facebook group. Or you can ask via email. However, we're more set up through Facebook because there are YouTube videos on how to make the juice as well as what it should look like. And there are a lot of videos on my YouTube account that will help you support you and understand the whole aspect of J Juice. Good luck and hope to see you on Facebook. JJ. Because here's the thing. This woman has a full mess of problems. Okay? She's going to have to deal with every single issue. She may possibly have her cataracts and things mess with her vision. Because when you're healing, you're going to have to deal with the symptoms that could be worse before it gets better. And if she already cured her cataracts with whatever it is that she did, she's going to have to go back and revisit that blind list again. Okay? This is not for the faint of heart. This is not for the faint of heart. And, some people won't be able to handle the healing process because they're that much of a mess. But if you understand conceptually what you're going to have to deal with, and you already have a menu of stuff that you already know what weaknesses you have, if you can get through them, every single one of them, and know that your body isn't being destroyed by the J Juice, you will set up your life to deal with those weaknesses accordingly. And if you're under a doctor's care, you need to let your doctor know what you're doing. I am not anybody's doctor, not anybody's coach. The J juice doesn't just deal with whatever said disease that you were diagnosed with. It's the whole body. There are people that try to go into J juice only trying to deal with their abscess of their tooth, or only trying to deal with certain symptoms. And they don't realize the body will prioritize. And so when the body prioritizes something else and not the one that's the symptom they came in for, they think the J juice isn't working. No, the body prioritized. Remember, you degraded in stages. You age in stages, you heal in stages. And you can't be the one to try to drive that process and make the body and force the body to heal something that it ain't ready to heal yet. It may want to heal your, hell, I don't know, your liver issue over than your cataracts, if that's what you're trying to go in for. And you're like, oh my God, I'm doing the J juice and I want to get my cataracts done, but oh my God, I have pain in my liver. Oh my God, you're killing me, Jillian. Sorry, but you have issues in your liver. And I can't tell you when the J juice is going to take care of the things that you came into J juice for. So that's why I don't do any kind of consultations. I don't promise anybody any kind of, guarantee, because chances are you staying on the protocol is probably nil if you have that many issues and you're trying to get some kind of like cure, like, oh, I want to have the pain disappear. No, the pain is going to be more pronounced. And you have to be strong enough to deal with it. And if you're not, that's where your healing will stop. And you'll just keep anesthetizing yourself until you pass away. And I'm telling you, passing away in our society can be fun. You can drink, you can smoke, you can take all these drugs and go out with a bang and do ayahuasca and play with your hormones and see psychedelics and play with that. Or you can go out with a bang and find a bunch of prostitutes and do whatever and leave with a bang. I mean, there's so many ways you can leave this earth. But really, if you want to live, healing is not fun. But dying is freaking fun. Look at people around you. People are having fun leaving this earth. Oh yeah, I have diabetes, but I'll just drink a bunch of alcohol and do whatever. Yeah, okay. No, that's not the J juice. J juice is not promoting having fun on your way out. J juice is saying, hey, if you truly want to live, you got to earn your place on this earth. If not, you go off like a cancer. And that's really what it is. So yeah, so this protocol, is not easy, but for those that truly want to live, it's for those that are not only mentally strong, but are able to handle the physical pain, and they have a support system set up. They have people in their world that support them in making sure that they are comfortable enough while they go through the healing process. And if you don't have that support system, forget it. Forget it. But those of you that do have that support system, you are lucky MFers. You are lucky. And those that don't, well, you never had a chance anyways, because if you were to contract some kind of cancer and then you were incapacitated, somebody would be like, hey, just pull the plug. Hey, we'll just go get this major, procedure and yeah, they'll be the ones really wanting you to get all this medical intervention, which I guess, okay, fine. Instead of finding something different, not natural methods, because even natural methods can be very detrimental. When you're applying cannabis and detoxes and all these different things, they can be just as detrimental as some of the allopathic therapies that are out there. So your family is going to make you or break you, especially if they're the ones taking care of you during this healing process. And most families will support you doing stuff that's not on the J juice. Most families will support you anesthetizing yourself, taking drugs. Okay? So cancer is a gift for those that recognize that you are getting time bought for you. Because if we were back in the 1300s, those of you who contracted cancer and all these different diseases, you would have been dead a long time ago. So in a lot of ways, obesity and all the different diseases have bought them time on this earth. But we're also glitching. And so until we can read and understand the writing on the wall, we're going to be reproducing on bodies that shouldn't have no business reproducing on, and then we're going to see generational lines die. And, and these resets happen all the time because they were weak back then in the 1300s, and then they had a huge aggressive virus that wiped out 1/3 of the population. Right now we're seeing bubonic plague type proportions, but now we are managing these cancers with different therapies. But it's still the same thing. It's still another virus. We're just softening the blow. Modern medicine has softened the blow. Vaccines have softened the blow of what could be bubonic plague proportions. So, but yeah, you know, Mother Nature will keep it balanced. So anyways, that's enough. I got to go hang out with my husband. But you guys have a great day. Hopefully this is a little bit interesting. It's not the most uplifting subject matters, but it's serious because most of you, if not all of you, are dealing with something. And it's only a matter of time before you get your mineral depletion and then you have a heart attack or a stroke and you won't survive it because you have basically depleted your mineral reserves. And then if you're not there for your kid or for your grandkids or for your husband or your wife, what's the point? When people play the discrimination game, they're projecting the imbalances in their body. So if you discriminate against food, if you discriminate against people, against elements, against cultures, against politics, you have imbalances. And those are red flags. All right, bye.